My younger brother-in-law took the gift my daughter gave him and said, "Cheap, worthless trash," while shaking the watch box she bought with her 3 months of allowance savings. He laughed and gave the gift to his 5-year-old son to play with, saying that, "At least it can be used as a toy," while my sister filmed everything thinking it was funny. The entire family birthday party fell silent as Derek tossed the Timex box to little Tyler like it was a dog toy. I watched my 12-year-old daughter Emma's face crumble, tears streaming down her cheeks as she ran from my parents' dining room. Jennifer kept recording, laughing that awful hyena cackle of hers, while Derek high-fived her like they'd just won something. I stood up slowly, picked up my wine glass, and smiled. Not the smile of someone hurt or embarrassed. The smile of someone who just realized exactly how stupid her enemies actually were. Derek noticed my expression, and his grin faltered for half a second before he recovered, wrapping his arm around Jennifer's waist. My mother reached for my hand across the table, her eyes pleading for me to let it go, to keep the peace like I always did. My father cleared his throat, about to launch into one of his "let's all calm down" speeches. But I wasn't the same Victoria who had spent 38 years smoothing over Jennifer's cruelty and Derek's arrogance. I was a senior HR manager at a Fortune 500 company who had spent 15 years learning exactly how to destroy someone's career with nothing but documentation and patience. And as I walked past Derek's chair to check on Emma, I noticed something interesting. The luxury watch on his wrist, the one he was so proud of, the one he'd bragged about during dinner. I had seen that exact model in an email thread at work last month, part of an internal investigation into expense report fraud. Emma was in my parents' guest bedroom, sobbing into a pillow. The watch she'd bought Derek had cost her every penny of allowance she'd saved since January, $20 a week for 13 weeks, plus the extra 10 she'd earned helping Mrs. Rodriguez next door with her garden. She had researched watches for hours, reading reviews on her tablet, making sure she got something nice enough for Uncle Derek. The Timex Weekender she'd chosen wasn't cheap trash. It was a $180 watch that she'd been so proud to wrap in the paper she'd decorated herself. I held my daughter while she cried, but I wasn't thinking about comfort. I was thinking about how Derek had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He thought I was weak because I'd never fought back against Jennifer's passive-aggressive comments about my little apartment versus their investment property. He assumed I was spineless because I'd ignored his condescending remarks about single mothers and their limited understanding of financial success. He had no idea that the quiet sister-in-law who worked in HR and drove a sensible Honda was about to become his worst nightmare. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, phone still in hand. "Oh, come on, Vic. Derek was just joking. Emma needs to learn to take a joke. The world isn't going to be nice to her if she's this sensitive." She was still smiling, still thinking this was funny, still recording. I could see the red dot indicating her camera was active. Good. Let her record. Let her document her husband's cruelty. I would need that video later. I stood up, keeping Emma close to me. "You're absolutely right, Jen. The world isn't nice. But family is supposed to be different. Family isn't supposed to humiliate a child who saved for 3 months to buy a thoughtful gift." My voice was calm, almost pleasant. This confused Jennifer, who had been expecting tears or anger, something she could mock later. Derek appeared behind Jennifer, Tyler on his hip, still holding the watch box. "Listen, if the kid is upset, I'll apologize. But seriously, Vic, you should teach Emma about quality. This thing probably costs less than my tie." He gestured at his designer silk tie, the one I recognized from Nordstrom's website. $800. Purchased on a corporate card, if my suspicions about those expense reports were correct. I smiled again, wider this time. "You're right, Derek. Quality matters. Speaking of which, that's a beautiful watch you're wearing. Omega Seamaster, isn't it? Must have cost at least $8,000. Where did you say you got it?" The question seemed innocent enough, but I saw Derek's jaw tighten imperceptibly. Jennifer, oblivious as always, jumped in. It was a bonus from his dealership, for being top salesman. Derek always gets the best bonuses. But I had seen Derek's personnel file. My company had been considering purchasing a fleet of vehicles from his dealership, and as part of HR's due diligence, I'd reviewed the key sales staff. Derek was good at his job, but he wasn't top salesman. He wasn't even in the top 5. Yet he was living like he was making twice his actual salary. The house, the cars, Jennifer's designer handbags, the private preschool for Tyler that cost more than my college tuition had. I gathered Emma's things while Derek and Jennifer retreated downstairs, probably to complain to my parents about how dramatic I was being. My mother tried to stop me as I headed for the door, but my father, surprisingly, stepped back. He had been watching Derek all evening with the expression I couldn't quite read. Maybe disappointment. Maybe something else. As I buckled Emma into the car, I heard Jennifer's voice carrying through the open window. "I'm posting this. Everyone needs to see how ridiculous Emma was acting. It's just a watch." That was when I knew exactly what I was going to do. Jennifer was going to post that video to her social media. Her public social media, where she tagged Derek's dealership in every post because she loved broadcasting her lifestyle. The same dealership that was in the middle of contract negotiations with my company. The same company whose ethics policy I had helped write. The drive back to our downtown Portland apartment took 25 minutes. Emma fell asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from crying. I spent those 25 minutes planning. In HR, we called it building a case. You didn't just fire someone because you didn't like them. You documented, you gathered evidence, you built an irrefutable record of policy violations. And then, when you had everything you needed, you presented it calmly and professionally to the people with the power to act. Derek had just handed me the opening I needed. That video would be my first piece of evidence. But I would need more. Much more, and I knew exactly where to start looking. Monday morning, Jennifer's video was already viral in our family circle. She'd posted it to Facebook with the caption, "When kids these days can't handle reality, tough love, jark real talk, jar birthday fun." 43 comments, mostly from her friends laughing along. 3 shares, but what Jennifer didn't know was that her profile was public, and she'd tagged Derek's workplace, Prestige Motors Portland, in her bio. I sat at my desk that morning with my office door closed, watching that video on repeat. Every time Derek shook that box, every time he called my daughter's gift worthless trash, every time Tyler grabbed it like a toy while Jennifer cackled, I took screenshots of everything: the post, the comments, the timestamp, the location tag. Then I opened my encrypted work files. The fleet vehicle proposal sat in my pending folder, $350,000 worth of business that Prestige Motors was competing for. As HR director, I didn't make the final decision, but I sat on the review committee. My recommendation carried weight. I pulled up the proposal and started reading through the sales contact information. Derek Sullivan, Senior Sales Associate. His name was all over the documents, positioning himself as the primary contact despite not being the top salesman. My desk phone rang. Linda from accounting. "Victoria, do you have a minute? I need to discuss those expense reports you flagged last month." Perfect timing. I told her to come up. Linda arrived with a thick folder, her expression troubled. "I've been digging deeper into the luxury goods expense category. We've got multiple employees claiming conference attendance that never happened, but they're all submitting receipts from the same high-end retailers. Watches, mostly. One employee claimed a $9,000 Omega as a client appreciation gift, but there's no client meeting in the calendar, no follow-up documentation, nothing." I opened the folder. The name on the expense report made my pulse quicken. Derek Sullivan hadn't purchased that watch as a company bonus. He'd expensed it, claiming it was for client relations, but the receipt showed a personal purchase, not a corporate sale. The date was 3 weeks ago. "Linda, I need you to pull every expense report Derek Sullivan has submitted in the past 2 years. Every receipt, every claim, every reimbursement. Can you have that ready by Wednesday?" Linda's eyes widened. She was smart enough to know this meant something big. Absolutely. Should I involve legal? Not yet. I needed to build the complete picture first. Not yet. Just gather everything and keep it confidential. That afternoon, I had lunch with my college roommate Taylor, who worked as a private investigator. We met at a small cafe in Northeast Portland, far from anywhere Jennifer or Derek might be. I showed her the video. "I need information on someone. Financial records, social media activity, any public records. Nothing illegal, just what's available through proper channels." Taylor watched the video twice, her jaw tightening. "That's your daughter? That's disgusting." "Yeah, I'll dig. Give me a name." I slid a piece of paper across the table with Derek's full information. "I need to know if he's living beyond his means. Properties, vehicles, debts, lawsuits, anything that doesn't add up with his claimed income." Taylor pocketed the paper. "This feels personal. You okay?" I smiled the same smile I'd given Derek at that birthday party. "I'm about to be better than okay." By Wednesday, Linda had compiled a file that was damning. Derek had submitted $83,000 in questionable expense reports over 18 months. Client dinners at restaurants that didn't exist. Conference registrations for events that weren't real. Equipment purchases with receipts that looked professionally forged but had subtle inconsistencies. The Omega watch was just the most recent example. Thursday morning, Taylor called. "Your brother-in-law is drowning." He's got 3 mortgages, 2 car loans at predatory interest rates, $70,000 in credit card debt, and he just got sued by his previous employer for breach of contract. There's a sealed settlement, but the filing is public record. He left his last dealership under suspicious circumstances. I wrote down every detail. What about Jennifer? Any income? Taylor laughed bitterly. She hasn't worked in 6 years. They're living entirely on his salary and apparently creative financing. Vic, these people are a house of cards. One strong wind and they collapse. That afternoon, I attended the fleet vehicle proposal meeting. 6 committee members, including the CFO. We reviewed 3 competing dealerships. When we reached Prestige Motors, I spoke carefully. I have concerns about the integrity of their sales staff. I'd like to recommend we conduct additional due diligence before moving forward. Specifically, I've become aware of potential expense report fraud involving their senior sales associate. The CFO leaned forward. Explain. I didn't mention Derek by name yet. I simply outlined what Linda had found, presenting it as a pattern we'd noticed during routine audits. Given that this individual is the primary contact on the proposal, and given the amount of money we're considering investing, I believe we have a fiduciary responsibility to investigate further. The CFO agreed immediately. Pull the proposal. Linda, contact their corporate office and request a meeting with their compliance department. Victoria, prepare a full report. It was that easy. Derek's biggest potential commission, gone. But that was just the opening move. Friday evening, Emma and I were having dinner when my mother called. Victoria, Jennifer is very upset. She says you're trying to ruin Derek's career. She says you contacted his employer with false accusations. I had contacted no one at Derek's employer. Not yet. Which meant Derek had somehow found out about the pulled fleet proposal and panicked. Mom, I haven't contacted anyone about Derek. I've simply done my job. If Derek has done nothing wrong, he has nothing to worry about. My mother sighed. Can't you just let this go? It was just a birthday party incident. Emma will get over it. I looked at my daughter, who was pushing food around her plate, still withdrawn and hurt 5 days later. No, Mom, I can't let it go, and you shouldn't ask me to. That weekend, I drafted a detailed memo. Subject, expense report fraud investigation. I documented every questionable claim, every forged receipt, every policy violation. I included the video of Derek humiliating Emma, noting that it demonstrated character concerns about someone representing our company in business negotiations. I cited our ethics policy about associating with individuals who displayed cruelty and poor judgment in public settings. Monday morning, I submitted the memo to the CFO, the legal department, and the compliance officer. By noon, I received a response. Meeting scheduled for Tuesday, 9 a.m. Derek Sullivan's employment and our business relationship with Prestige Motors will be reviewed. Tuesday's meeting lasted 3 hours. Prestige Motors' corporate compliance officer was horrified. Mr. Sullivan submitted these expense reports to us as well, claiming your company had approved these purchases. We've been processing reimbursements based on falsified documentation. The dealership's general manager was sweating. We had no idea. Derek has always been confident. We trusted his documentation. The CFO was merciless. Confidence isn't documentation. Your dealership submitted a proposal using a fraudster as the primary contact. That reflects on your entire organization's oversight. By the end of the meeting, Prestige Motors had terminated Derek's employment effective immediately, withdrawn from the fleet proposal competition, and agreed to cooperate with any legal proceedings. Wednesday afternoon, my phone exploded with texts from Jennifer. Angry, desperate, accusatory. You got Derek fired! You ruined our family! How could you do this over a stupid watch? I didn't respond. I was too busy meeting with Taylor again, because she'd found something else. Something that would destroy the last pillar holding up Derek's crumbling life. Taylor slid a manila folder across the coffee shop table. You're not going to believe this. Derek's lawsuit from his previous employer? I got someone to pull the sealed records. He wasn't just fired. He was caught sleeping with the owner's wife and embezzling from the company simultaneously. The settlement was $250,000 to avoid criminal charges. I opened the folder, reading through the documents. Derek had signed a non-disclosure agreement and a promissory note. He was supposed to pay back $80,000 over 5 years. According to Taylor's research, he'd made 3 payments and then stopped. The creditor could pursue criminal charges if he defaults. The NDA specifically stated that if he breached the payment terms, they could file charges for the original embezzlement. This was bigger than I'd hoped. How did he afford the settlement and the lifestyle? Taylor pointed to another document. Jennifer's parents. They took out a second mortgage on their home to cover Derek's settlement payment. He never told Jennifer what the money was really for. He told her and her parents it was for a business investment opportunity that fell through. Jennifer's parents, my former in-laws before the divorce that had split our family years ago, had mortgaged their retirement to save Derek's criminal hide. And Jennifer had no idea. I thought about my sister, about how she'd laughed while filming Emma's humiliation, how she'd stood by Derek without question, how she'd built her entire identity around his manufactured success. Taylor, I need everything you can legally obtain about that promissory note. Payment history, terms, consequences of default. Taylor nodded grimly. I know where you're going with this. You're about to blow up her entire marriage. She wasn't wrong. That evening, I received an unexpected visitor. My father appeared at my apartment door, looking older than I'd seen him look in years. Victoria, we need to talk. I let him in, poured coffee, and waited. He sat heavily on my couch. Your mother thinks I should convince you to back off. She thinks you're being vindictive. And what do you think? He stared into his coffee mug. I think Derek Sullivan is a predator who's been using our family for years. I think Jennifer has been enabling his cruelty because it makes her feel superior. And I think what he did to Emma was unforgivable. He looked up at me. I also think you've already destroyed his career and you're not planning to stop there. I didn't deny it. He made a mistake, Dad. He thought I was someone who would just take it. He thought wrong. My father nodded slowly. Your mother won't forgive you for this. Jennifer definitely won't. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared to teach my daughter that you don't let people abuse you just because they're family. I'm prepared to show her that actions have consequences. I'm prepared to be the villain if it means Emma learns to stand up for herself. My father stood, pulled an envelope from his jacket, and placed it on my coffee table. This is the paperwork for Jennifer and Derek's house. Your mother kept it when they bought it, wanted to understand their finances. The mortgage is in both their names, but Derek provided all the income documentation. If that documentation was fraudulent, and I suspect it was, the mortgage company would have grounds to call the loan. I stared at my father. You're helping me. He headed for the door. I'm protecting my granddaughter. There's a difference. After he left, I opened the envelope. The mortgage application was a masterpiece of fraud. Derek had claimed an annual income of $200,000. His actual salary was $95,000. He'd submitted fake tax returns, fabricated bonus letters, and forged employment verification. This wasn't just unethical. This was mortgage fraud, a federal crime carrying up to 30 years in prison. Friday morning, I received a call from Prestige Motors' corporate attorney. Ms. Porter, during our internal investigation following Mr. Sullivan's termination, we discovered additional irregularities. He was running a side business selling extended warranties that didn't actually exist. Customers paid him directly, thinking they were buying dealership products. We're estimating he defrauded at least 40 customers out of approximately $200,000 over 3 years. The attorney's voice was tight with controlled anger. We're going to law enforcement. We wanted to inform you because your company's flag on his expense reports is what triggered our deeper investigation. You may be called as a witness. I thanked him and hung up. Derek wasn't just losing his job. He was facing criminal prosecution. That weekend, Emma asked me what was happening. She'd heard Jennifer yelling at my mother over the phone, heard the words Victoria and destroyed and revenge. I sat down with my daughter and chose my words carefully. Remember how Uncle Derek treated your gift? How he called it worthless? Emma nodded, her eyes filling with tears even a week later. What he did was cruel. And cruelty doesn't exist in isolation. Someone who can humiliate a child is someone who makes other bad choices too. When I looked closer at Uncle Derek, I found out he'd been lying and stealing from a lot of people. Not because of what he did to you, but that showed me who he really was. Emma processed this. Are you the reason he lost his job? I'm the reason his lies were discovered. He's the reason he lost his job. Emma hugged me. Good. He was mean. Out of the mouths of children. Such clarity. Monday brought the explosion I'd been expecting. Jennifer showed up at my office building, screaming in the lobby until security escorted her out. She called me 67 times. She sent text messages that ranged from begging to threatening. How could you do this to family? Derek might go to jail. We're losing the house. Tyler is going to be homeless. You're destroying a child's life over a stupid birthday party. I responded once. Derek destroyed his own life with fraud, theft, and cruelty. I simply turned on the lights. Then I blocked her number. But I did screenshot all 67 attempted calls and every threatening message. Documentation. Always documentation. Tuesday, the police arrested Derek at Jennifer's parents' house where they'd been staying. Charges: wire fraud, identity theft, mortgage fraud, and grand theft. The bail was set at $500,000. Jennifer's parents couldn't afford it. The house that Derek had told Jennifer was their investment property was actually underwater, mortgaged for more than its value based on his fraudulent income claims. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings within days. Wednesday, Jennifer sent one final message from a new number before I blocked that too. "I hope you're happy. Tyler watched his father get arrested. My parents lost their retirement. We have nothing. All because Emma couldn't take a joke. You've destroyed this family." I didn't respond, but I thought, no, Derek destroyed this family. Jennifer enabled it. I just made sure everyone else could see what was always there. Taylor called that evening. "There's one more thing. The woman Derek had the affair with at his previous job? She's willing to testify." Apparently, Derek told her his wife was emotionally abusive, and he was trapped in the marriage. Classic manipulation. She feels guilty now and wants to help with the criminal case. Everything was crumbling around Derek faster than I'd anticipated. But I wasn't done. There was one final piece to put in place. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for early October. Derek had managed to hire a cut-rate attorney who was already making noise about vindictive family members and workplace persecution. His lawyer actually had the audacity to request that I be barred from the courtroom because of personal bias. The judge denied that motion in about 15 seconds. Ms. Porter reported legitimate fraud through proper corporate channels. Mr. Sullivan's personal relationship to her is irrelevant to the criminal charges. Motion denied. I sat in the gallery with Emma beside me. I wanted my daughter to see this, to understand that people who hurt others eventually face consequences, even if it takes time. Derek looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his expensive clothes were gone, replaced by an ill-fitting department store suit. Jennifer sat behind him, glaring at me with pure hatred. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically. $83,000 in expense fraud from Prestige Motors, $200,000 in fake warranty scams from customers, mortgage fraud totaling $450,000, identity theft for creating false tax documents. The numbers kept climbing. By the time the prosecutor finished, Derek was facing 67 felony counts. His attorney tried to argue mitigating circumstances. "Your Honor, Mr. Sullivan has a young child. He's a first-time offender. These charges are excessive given that much of this was simply poor record-keeping rather than intentional fraud." The judge looked skeptical. "Counselor, forging tax documents isn't poor record-keeping. Creating fictional businesses to generate fake receipts isn't poor record-keeping. Your client ran multiple sophisticated fraud schemes over several years. This demonstrates planning and intent." Bail was maintained at $500,000. Derek was remanded to custody until trial. As the bailiff led him away, Derek turned and looked directly at me. Not at Jennifer. Not at his son. At me. The look was pure venom, but underneath it I saw something else. Fear. He finally understood that I wasn't going to stop. That this wasn't going to blow over. That his entire carefully constructed life was being systematically dismantled, and there was nothing he could do about it. Jennifer rushed out of the courtroom sobbing. Several family members followed her, including my mother, who paused to give me a look of profound disappointment. My father, however, squeezed my shoulder as he passed. "It's almost over," he whispered. But it wasn't. Not quite. Because the best part was still coming. That evening, I received a call from a producer at a local news station. "Ms. Porter? We're doing a story on consumer fraud in the auto industry. Your name came up as someone who helped expose a major scheme at Prestige Motors. Would you be willing to be interviewed?" I agreed immediately. The interview was scheduled for the following Monday. Over the weekend, I prepared carefully. I wasn't going to discuss Derek specifically. That would violate legal protocols. But I could discuss the importance of corporate whistleblowing, the patterns we look for in expense fraud, and how consumers can protect themselves from warranty scams. The reporter was smart and asked good questions. At the end, she asked, "What would you say to someone who's afraid to report fraud because it might affect family relationships?" I looked directly into the camera. I'd say that protecting fraudsters because they're family doesn't make you loyal. It makes you complicit. And I'd say that teaching children to accept cruelty and dishonesty because it's easier than confronting it, that's the real betrayal of family values. The segment aired Wednesday evening. It was devastating. They showed Derek's mugshot. They interviewed 3 customers he'd scammed out of fake warranties, including an elderly veteran who'd paid $8,000 for coverage that didn't exist. They detailed the expense fraud. And they ended with my quote about family and complicity. Jennifer's Facebook exploded, but not in the way she'd hoped. Instead of sympathy, she got anger. People who'd seen Derek's behavior at parties, who'd watched him treat service workers like garbage, who'd witnessed his arrogance. They all came forward. The comment section became a catalog of Derek's cruelty over the years. He once made a waitress cry because his steak wasn't cooked exactly right, then complained to get the meal free. He told my autistic son to act normal at a birthday party. He borrowed $5,000 from my husband and never paid it back. By Friday, even Jennifer's closest friends had gone quiet. The video of Derek humiliating Emma had been reshared in the context of the news story. Hundreds of comments condemned him, condemned her for filming it, condemned the cruelty. Local parenting groups picked it up. Derek became a cautionary tale, an example of toxic masculinity and entitled behavior. Jennifer deleted all her social media accounts. Too late. Everything had been screenshot, archived, shared. The internet never forgets. That weekend, Derek's attorney called me. Ms. Porter, my client would like to offer an apology to you and your daughter. He realizes his behavior was inappropriate, and he hopes that you might consider providing a character reference that could help with sentencing. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Your client can take his apology and his character reference request and shove both directly up his ass. I wouldn't piss on Derek Sullivan if he was on fire. Tell him Emma says hello. The attorney sputtered. Ms. Porter, that's... You realize you sound vindictive? I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. No, counselor. I sound like someone who's done being nice to people who don't deserve it. Your client is going to prison. Nothing I say or don't say will change that. He did this to himself. Monday morning, the plea offer came. Derek would plead guilty to 32 felony counts in exchange for 15 years in federal prison with possibility of parole after 10. His attorney was pushing him to take it, because the trial would likely result in a much longer sentence. Tuesday afternoon, I received flowers at my office. No card. I threw them in the trash without opening them, assuming they were from Derek or Jennifer. An hour later, building security called. Ms. Porter, there's a man in the lobby who says he needs to see you. He seems distressed. I went down, curious. It was Jennifer's father, my former father-in-law. He looked broken. Victoria, please, I need 5 minutes. We went to a coffee shop across the street. He explained that Jennifer had told him everything, including the forged documents and the embezzlement from years ago. I had no idea. Derek told us he needed investment capital. We mortgaged our home. Martha and I were 70 years old. We're going to lose everything. I felt the first whisper of something that might have been guilt. Might have been. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I didn't make Derek lie to you. I didn't make him forge documents or steal from people. I didn't make Jennifer enable his behavior for years, but you could have just let it go. The watch thing. It was cruel, yes, but was it worth destroying so many lives? That's when the whisper of guilt died completely. Let me be very clear. Derek didn't go to prison because he was mean to Emma. He's going to prison because he's a criminal. Emma's gift just made me look closely enough to see it. If he'd been a good person who made one mistake at a birthday party, there wouldn't have been anything for me to find. I stood up. Your daughter chose to marry a con artist. She chose to ignore his cruelty. She chose to film my daughter's humiliation and post it online. Those were her choices. The consequences are Derek's fault, not mine. He tried one more time. Jennifer's pregnant. 3 months. They just found out right before Derek was arrested. This was supposed to be the detail that broke me. That made me back off. That proved I was the monster. I looked at him calmly. Then I guess Derek should have thought about that before he committed 67 felonies. That child deserves better than a father who's a cruel, fraudulent criminal. Maybe this is the best thing that could happen. His face crumpled. You've become cold, Victoria. I gathered my things. No, I've become clear. There's a difference. Derek took the plea deal. 15 years, federal prison, restitution of $734,000 that he'd never be able to pay. The sentencing hearing was in late October. I attended with Emma, who was doing better now. She'd started seeing a therapist, not because of trauma, but because I wanted her to process what had happened in a healthy way. Jennifer was there, visibly pregnant, playing the tragic wife for anyone who'd watch. She'd given an interview to a rival news station, painting herself as a victim of my obsessive vendetta. It hadn't gone well. The reporter had asked her about filming Emma's humiliation, and Jennifer had responded, "It was just a joke. People are too sensitive these days." The comments section had destroyed her. The judge called the court to order. Derek was brought in, wearing prison orange now, his hands cuffed. He looked at Jennifer first, then at me. This time there was no anger in his gaze, just emptiness. Mr. Sullivan, you have pleaded guilty to 32 counts of fraud, theft, and identity theft. Before I impose sentence, is there anything you'd like to say? Derek stood. His voice was flat. I made mistakes. I hurt people. I'm sorry, that was it. No real remorse. No acknowledgement of specific victims. Just empty words that meant nothing. The judge wasn't impressed. Mr. Sullivan, I've reviewed the pre-sentencing report. You've shown no genuine remorse. You've attempted to blame your behavior on financial stress, on family pressure, on everyone but yourself. You created fake businesses. You forged government documents. You stole from vulnerable people. And when your crimes were discovered, your concern was not for your victims, but for your own inconvenience. The judge looked at the paperwork. The prosecutor has recommended 15 years. I'm inclined to go higher, but I'm bound by the plea agreement. Derek Sullivan, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, followed by 10 years supervised release. You are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $734,000. You are prohibited from working in financial services, sales, or any position of fiduciary responsibility upon your release. The gavel came down. Derek's shoulders slumped. Jennifer sobbed loudly, dramatically. The bailiff led Derek away. As he passed our row, he looked at Emma. I'm sorry I was mean about your watch, kid. Emma looked at him calmly, with more composure than he'd ever shown. You're not sorry. You're just in trouble. Derek flinched like he'd been slapped. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Jennifer tried to make a statement about injustice and family betrayal, but the questions were hostile. Mrs. Sullivan, did you know your husband was committing fraud? Mrs. Sullivan, do you regret filming a child's humiliation? Mrs. Sullivan, are you facing charges as well for benefiting from stolen money? She fled to a waiting car, my mother helping her, both of them shooting hateful looks in my direction. My father hung back. Your mother's not speaking to me. She thinks I encouraged you. I raised an eyebrow. Did you? He smiled slightly. I gave you documents. What you did with them was your choice. And for what it's worth, I think Derek got off light. A reporter approached me. Ms. Porter, Derek Sullivan's attorney claims you orchestrated a campaign of personal destruction against his client. How do you respond? I looked directly into the camera. I reported legitimate crimes through proper legal channels. Derek Sullivan destroyed himself through his own criminal actions. The only thing I did was refuse to be silent about it. Some people are calling you vindictive. I smiled. Some people think women should be quiet and forgiving, no matter what's done to them or their children. I'm not interested in those people's opinions. That evening, I took Emma out for dinner at her favorite restaurant. We ordered too much food and dessert and talked about anything except Derek and Jennifer in courtrooms. At one point, Emma asked, Mom, are you happy Uncle Derek is going to prison? I thought about this carefully. I'm not happy about any of this, sweetheart. Prison is a terrible place. Families are being hurt. But I'm satisfied that someone who did bad things is facing consequences. And I'm glad you saw that speaking up about cruelty isn't wrong. Emma nodded. Ashley at school said her mom said you ruined Derek's life because you were mad about a watch. Ashley's mom was one of Jennifer's friends. What did you say? I said you didn't ruin his life. He ruined it himself by being a bad person. The watch just made you notice. I felt a surge of fierce pride. My daughter understood. She really understood. November brought financial devastation for Jennifer. The house was foreclosed. Her parents' home was foreclosed. Derek's assets, including his luxury cars and watches, were seized and sold to pay restitution. Jennifer had to move in with my parents, who were barely speaking to each other because of the family split. She filed for divorce in early December. The divorce was uncontested. Derek had nothing left to fight for. Jennifer reached out through my father one last time in mid-December. She wanted to talk, to clear the air before the baby came. I agreed to meet her at a neutral coffee shop. I arrived on time. Jennifer was 15 minutes late, probably hoping I'd leave. She looked terrible. Pregnancy combined with stress and financial ruin had aged her. I'm here because my therapist says I need closure, she began. No apology, no acknowledgement, just her need for closure. I sipped my coffee and waited. I need to understand why you did this. Why you destroyed my life over a watch. I set down my cup carefully. I didn't destroy anything, Jennifer. Derek committed crimes. Serious crimes. Against multiple people for years. I simply made sure he faced consequences. But you could have let it go. You could have just talked to us. I laughed bitterly. Like I talked to you about all the times you belittled my apartment, my job, my choices. Like I talked to you about the passive-aggressive comments about single mothers. Like I should have talked to Derek about humiliating my daughter. When has talking ever worked with you? Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I'm pregnant and alone. Tyler asks about his dad every day. My parents lost their home, and you don't even care. I leaned forward. You're right. I don't care. You filmed my daughter crying. You posted it online. You laughed. You made her trauma into entertainment. And when Derek was exposed as a criminal, instead of acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, he'd done this to himself, you blamed me. So no, Jennifer. I don't care about your consequences. You enabled a predator. You married him, defended him, and participated in his cruelty. You deserve every single thing that's happening to you. She stood up, shaking. You're a monster, Victoria. I smiled. No, I'm just done being your victim. There's a difference. She left. We haven't spoken since. It's December now, almost 8 months since Derek humiliated Emma at that birthday party. Emma's doing well. She's in therapy, thriving at school, and learning to set boundaries with people who treat her poorly. She saved up allowance again and bought herself a watch. A nice one, because she wanted it, not to please anyone else. Derek is in federal prison in California, far from Portland. Jennifer gave birth to a daughter in November. My parents visit her occasionally, but the relationship is strained. My mother still doesn't speak to me. My father has Sunday breakfast with Emma and me every week. Jennifer works at a grocery store now, living in subsidized housing with 2 kids. Her social media shows filtered pictures of her children with captions about new beginnings and blessing in disguise. She never mentions Derek. She never takes accountability. Some people never do. The customers Derek defrauded received partial restitution from the dealership's insurance. Not full payment, but something. 3 of them wrote to thank me for reporting him. One was the elderly veteran. His letter sits framed in my office. Thank you for having the courage to speak up. Because of you, a bad man can't hurt anyone else for a long time. Prestige Motors implemented new oversight protocols. They hired a compliance firm to audit all their sales staff. 2 more employees were found to have committed lesser frauds and were terminated. The dealership's reputation took a hit, but they survived by being transparent about the reforms. My company awarded me a commendation for corporate integrity. The fleet vehicle purchase went to a different dealership with stronger oversight. I was promoted to Vice President of Human Resources in October. The raise paid for Emma's therapy and a 2-week vacation to Hawaii where we learned to surf. People sometimes ask if I regret how far I took things. If I feel guilty about the collateral damage to Jennifer and her children? The answer is no, not even a little bit. Derek made choices every single day to lie, steal, and hurt people. Jennifer made choices every single day to enable him and participate in cruelty. They built their lives on fraud and arrogance. I just made sure the foundation collapsed before more people got hurt. Emma asks sometimes if Uncle Derek will ever come back. I tell her the truth. He'll get out of prison someday. But he won't be in our lives. Some people don't deserve second chances. She seems relieved by this. Last week, Taylor called with an update. Derek is apparently not doing well in prison. He got in a fight with another inmate and lost several teeth. He's in the infirmary recovering. Jennifer tried to visit once and he refused to see her. Apparently, he blames her for not supporting him better during the trial. Even in prison, Derek refuses to take responsibility. I thought about sending him a message, something clever about karma or consequences, but I didn't. Because Derek Sullivan is irrelevant to my life now. He's a cautionary tale I'll tell Emma when she's older about what happens to people who build their lives on lies and cruelty. He's a footnote. Jennifer sent my mother a Christmas card with a picture of her kids. Tyler, now 6, and baby Madison. The card said, "Family is everything." My mother left it on my parents' mantle. I saw it when I dropped off gifts. I didn't comment. Emma and I have a new tradition. On the anniversary of that birthday party, we volunteer at a local charity that helps families affected by fraud and financial crime. We sort donations, help with filing paperwork, listen to stories of people rebuilding their lives. Emma says it makes her feel strong to help people who were hurt like the people Uncle Derek hurt. This Christmas, Emma bought presents for everyone with her own money again, thoughtful gifts that she researched carefully. My father got a book about local history. My mother, who still barely acknowledges me, got a beautiful scarf. Emma delivered it personally because despite everything, she loves her grandmother. My mother opened it, saw the care Emma had put into the wrapping, read the card Emma had written, and cried. Not pretty, graceful tears, ugly, body-shaking sobs. She hugged Emma and whispered, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry he was mean to you. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you." It wasn't an apology to me, but it was something. We'll see if it leads to more. If my mother can eventually acknowledge that protecting Emma mattered more than keeping peace with Jennifer, if she can recognize that Derek's imprisonment wasn't my vindictiveness, but his consequences. If she can admit that some family members aren't worth keeping, but even if she can't, I'm at peace. Emma knows her worth. She knows that cruel people eventually face consequences. She knows that speaking up isn't wrong. She knows that being family doesn't mean accepting abuse. Those lessons are worth every burned bridge, every awkward holiday, every family member who thinks I went too far. Derek Sullivan taught my daughter that some people are cruel. I taught her that those people don't get to win. That's a fair trade. And on quiet nights, when Emma is asleep and I'm alone with my thoughts, I think about that moment at the birthday party. Derek shaking that watch box, calling her gift worthless trash. The sound of Jennifer's laughter, the look on my daughter's face. And I smile. Because Derek Sullivan got exactly what he deserved. Not because of revenge, not because I'm vindictive, but because actions have consequences. Cruelty has costs. And I made sure he paid every single penny he owed. That's not villainy. That's justice.